Hello and welcome to another video. So after looking through a few dragon lists and playing against a fair few dragon on ladder in the last few days, I have finally settled on a dragon list that I'm quite happy to say is probably going to be what is meta defining as far as it goes at the moment, and that's pretty much it as far as it goes. So the big cards of course for this is making sure stock lots of ramp, Lyria, really good card for pulling Prince of Cocytus. Anyway, pulling out the Prince is very easy with that card, makes things quite consistent. Of course, Violent Dragon, great card, especially if you hold it until after you've already played Prince. As you'll see, it can be quite amazing. True Dragon is a good ramp card and a good defensive card. Dragon Oracle, pretty standard ramp. Raging Dragon is an insane combo card, both in the early game because it has Bane, and of course in the late game when you can combo with something like Poseidon, which is a fairly consistent, and the rest is pretty stock standard Dragon, except for Pure Voice Dragoon, which has a couple of decent options with Dragoon's Command, and of course the Dragoon's Medallion, which I actually like more as a heal, so that's actually quite nice and works out quite well. So we're going to get right into it and check this deck out. So while I haven't played this deck excessively, I've had a few pretty solid amount of games with it, and I've got to say I'm quite happy with its performance overall. It seems to be definitely going to top out, which is nice because I did want to see a nice Prince deck at the top. Whether I get sick of that though towards the, of course, middle of the expansion when things sort of slow down after this first kind of couple of week period, kind of the honeymoon phase for the expansion, it'll be more interesting. I'm hoping people can come up with more of a counter to this, as I don't want to see Prince nerfed into the ground. It would be a little sad if he was, as I think his card itself is reasonably balanced. I think it's Dragon's ramp that makes it more broken, at least at this point. I'd rather see Dragon's ramp capabilities slowed down slightly than see Prince nerfed, as Prince in every other deck isn't super overpowered compared to Dragon. It kind of reminds me of the old Zeus days, before of course Reanimate Shadow made Zeus broken. Dragon was the one that really took benefit of it. So getting a solid ramp is what we want here, and we've done a pretty nice job at securing that now. We're going to be looking at a pretty solid next turn. Dragon on Dragon matchups though are definitely more decided on who can ramp harder and get a better starting off point. We do start off well. We got a Prince in our hand, and we've probably got to set up for another one going forward. I think we've ramped up enough to put ourselves ahead next turn as far as play points go. So we do have to remove this. And Azure Maiden's too good to pass up. I mean, we may as well just play it now. And since we're 100% playing Prince next turn, may as well get the 4/4 on board, even if it costs us. So 100% going to be playing Prince, killing off the 5/5, and then passing our turn. Ideally, we draw Azeroth as our first draw. The odds of that, though, is of course 1 in 13. But nearly every card in the Prince deck is pretty powerful. There are only a few that aren't super overpowered. But we should be pretty fine going into the next turn. We do want to wipe out as much of this as we can, especially since we didn't draw too well. So taking advantage of our 2-drop, we should be able to use the Bane effect, remove this pretty easily, and set ourselves up pretty nicely for next turn. And the Medallion really puts us out of range of any big Storm Follower. Omen of 1, so they're playing an Omen of 1 Dragon. Very interesting. But it's not really going to be enough on its own. We're definitely going to have pretty solid next turn. Look at this. Heaven's Fall. So not a bad way to remove the follower. And we end up drawing the Azeroth's Reckoning. We're also getting a chance to just drop Roy and expand our board, so that we can take a chance at Azeroth probably just finishing the game next turn if they can't clear everything on board. Blazing Breath is a good start, but without an Evo, it definitely was going to be hard. Fortunately for us, our Azeroth's Reckoning put them to 1, deal 5, win the game right there. Always works when you're going for something like that. For our next matchup, we are going to go up against Rune.
Shall we cross swords? Time to shine, Daria.
Pretty average matchup as far as things go for Dragon. It's definitely not one of the strongest matchups, at least from what I've played so far. Both playing as Rune and playing against Rune now. Definitely it's a kind of a 50-50 on who can have the better deck and hand as things go. Of course, if you're going up against a Rune deck that isn't optimized, it can be definitely an easy match. If you're going up against a more optimized and well-played Rune, it can definitely become a much tougher match. Even if you're playing well with a deck. That or you can easily brick yourself. Like here, I wasn't really sure how I wanted to play this, as I was tempted to save my Poseidon, ended up deciding not to worry about it, go for the early board presence instead, because Rune will usually struggle a little bit more against that early pressure. Now we just really needed a turn 4 play, unfortunately drawing nothing, and I wasn't going to play my Prince here. I couldn't take that risk. But now we're going to have a pretty nice turn 5. The top deck draw there, giving us ramp, was very nice. Otherwise, I was just going to go for a Vile Violent Dragoon, so going for a Vile Violent Dragon would have been okay.
This is where I excel.
I believe it's also Violet Dragon, but I've been saying Violent either way.
You're a fool to believe this is over.
So we get more ramp, which is perfect, because that actually allows us to go for Prince next turn. I also drop the Vile Dragoon, so I can go for it. Or Dragon, sorry. Dragoons are a different species of mythical creature, either way. Does allow us to go pretty nicely here. I mean, the couple of draws should help us out long term. They are putting some pressure down, which is not going to be super fun for us to deal with, but considering we're going to still be at 17 health, I think just playing Prince and killing off the 4-3 is going to be a perfectly acceptable line of play. Especially with double the Disdainful Rand, Poseidon, a couple of Violet Dragons. I'm so used to saying Dragoons now. They're all dragons. And they also are forced to deal with this now, so a 9-5 is definitely not the easiest thing to deal with unless they had another removal card. By the looks of it, if they're attacking, they probably don't have a straight up removal. Possibly a boon into Insight, into Fate's Hand, finally a Flame Destroyer, and then the 3-5. That's pretty good for us, honestly. So we end up with Infernal Gaze, which isn't a bad card. I had to debate on how this was going to go down. I did decide to play the Infernal Gaze. This way it stops any potential spells that the opponent was going to go for, as they literally cannot play any of them, as they are only at 8 play points. So this is going to give us an extremely good next turn, especially with banishing an enemy. And we get Azeroth's Reckoning. Plus we're about to draw 4 of the cards from our deck. And of course, that last one there is insane. Gluttonous Behemoth. Giving 7 damage to the enemy's face at the end of our turn is going to be lethal either way. If Azeroth's Reckoning can get through, that'll be lethal as well. It just depends on if they can wipe out the majority of this board or not. Which, by the looks of it, looks like they're going to have a pretty good chance of doing so. Yeah, so Azeroth wouldn't have got us lethal here very easily. We definitely, the Gluttonous Behemoth would have got us, is the only card that would have got us straight up lethal right now, and really glad that that's the one we had in hand. So after playing this deck and again playing against it, I can definitely see it's extremely powerful, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does absolutely dominate the current meta pretty much for the rest of the month. Until some changes come in, because it is just that overbearing, and I think it's probably going to stay that way for quite a while. So really enjoyed playing it though. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.